Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Vrndesa Ranjana Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Vrndesa Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. जय विश्वपाद परमहंस विराजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विश्वपाद परमहंस विराजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद भक्तिसिद्धांत ठाकुर महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि 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 बोल। गोस्वामी assembled devotees, all Gospel assembled, all Gospel assembled devotees, all Guru Shri Guru Gauranga, all Guru Shri Prabhupada की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. We are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 5, entitled Narada Muni cursed by Prajapati Daksha. Verse number 17. Panjavimshati tattvanam Puruṣodbhudadarpanaha Adhyatmam abhudasyeha Kimasat karmabhirbhavet. Panjavimshati tattvanam Puruṣodbhudadarpanaha Adhyatmam abhudasyeha Kimasat karmabhirbhavet. Panjavimshati tattvanam Puruṣodbhuta-darpanaha Adhyatmam abhudasyeha Kimasat karmabhirbhavet 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 Panjavimshati tattvanam Puruṣodbhuta-darpanaha Adhyatmana abhudasyeha Kimasat karmabhirbhavet Panjavimshati tattvanam Puruṣodbhuta-darpanaha Adhyatmam abhudasyeha Kimasat karmabhirbhavet Panjavimshati tattvanam Puruṣodbhuta-darpanaha Adhyatmam abhudasyeha Kimasat karmabhirbhavet Panjavimshati 25 Tattvanam or the elements Purushaha the Supreme Personality of Godhead Adbhuta-darpanaha the wonderful manifester Adhyatmam the overseer of all causes and effects Abudhasya of one who does not know Iha in this world Kimasat karmabhirbhavet what can be the benefit of engaging in temporary fruitive activities? Translation Narada Muni had said that there is a house made of 25 elements. The Haryashvas understood this analogy. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of the 25 elements and as the Supreme Being, the conductor of cause and effect. He causes their manifestation. If one engages in temporary fruitive activities, not knowing that Supreme Person, what benefit will he derive? Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Philosophers and scientists conduct scholarly research to find the original cause, but they should do so scientifically, not whimsically or through fantastic theories. The science of the original cause is explained in various Vedic literatures. Adhato Brahma Jijnasa Janmadhyasya Yataha. The Vedanta Sutra explains that one should inquire about the Supreme Soul. Such inquiry about the Supreme is called Brahma Jijnasa. The absolute truth, Tattva, is explained in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1-11. Vadanti tattva vidastatvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan. The absolute truth appears to neophytes as impersonal Brahman and to advanced mystic yogis as Paramatma, the super soul. But devotees who are further advanced understand the absolute truth as the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This material cosmic manifestation is an expansion of the energy of Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. Ekas desha siddhasyagnir jyotsna vistarani yatha parasya brahmana shaktis tathetam akhilam jagat. Whatever we see in this world is but an expansion of various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is like a fire that spreads illumination for a long distance. Although it is situated in one place. Vishnu Purana. The entire cosmic manifestation is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, if one does not conduct research to find the Supreme Cause, but instead falsely engages in frivolous temporary activities, what is the use of demanding recognition as an important scientist or philosopher? If one does not know the ultimate cause, what is the use of his scientific and philosophical research? The Purusha, the original person, Bhagavan, Vishnu, can be understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschami tattvataha. Only by devotional service can one understand the Supreme Person who is behind everything. One must try to understand that the material elements are the separated inferior energy of the Lord, and the living entity is the Lord's spiritual energy. Whatever we experience, including matter and the spirit soul, the living force, is but a combination of two energies of Lord Vishnu, the inferior energy and the superior energy. One should seriously study the facts concerning creation, maintenance and devastation, as well as the permanent place from which one never need return. Yad gatva nanivartante. Human society should study this, but instead of culturing such knowledge, people are attracted to temporary happiness and sense gratification, culminating in bottomless, topless passion. There is no profit in such activities. One must engage himself in the Krishna consciousness movement. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnanajanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vranda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhutair Mahadbhir Yaima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamusha Purusha bhungte gunan shodasha shodashatmaka solang krishishta bhagavan vachamsi me. Hare Krishna. Here, the conclusion is presented in one sense, that who is the Lord of all material elements. So here it's mentioned, Panchavimshati Tattvanam Purushaha. One who is the Purusha, or one who is the Lord of Panchavimshati Tattvanam. Tattva is referred to here as the elements, material elements. And there are 25 material elements. And the Lord is the Supreme Lord. The Lord of them is the Supreme Lord. He is the creator, He is the source of them. So here, the conclusion is presented that ultimately the material energy is emanating from the Supreme Lord. Here we can see that the Haryashvas are very intelligent, because even though such a cryptic analogy is presented by Narada Muni, they were able to understand everything. They didn't need much explanation to it. Without that, they were able to fathom, and they were ready to go and perform bhakti. And in that way, all of them went back home, back to Godhead. So this is first-class intelligence, isn't it? Just by hearing, this is called first-class intelligence. Just by hearing, they are able to understand. And second-class intelligence is seeing. Seeing, learning. But they didn't have to see just by hearing, because they didn't have any experience of whatever is mentioned. They didn't have any experience of family life at all. Without that, they were so pure in intelligence that when this analogy was presented, they understood and they went to meditation unto the Supreme. This is amazing if you think about it. Because many times, even if direct instructions are given, still it is difficult to follow. But here, just by giving a cryptic analogy, Haryashvas were able to understand. And they took the path of Brahmacharya and they started the spiritual journey. And all of them perfected and went back home, back to Godhead. This is very good. And this is in fact the preaching strategy of Narada Muni. Because if you are in your own comfort zone, it is very difficult to preach. I think that's why we all became devotees in Melbourne, or outside of our comfort zone, isn't it? Because if you are with the family, there are so many other influences, and it can be difficult for us to accept Krishna consciousness and to lead such a lifestyle. However, when you are away from the comfort zone, it's much easier. Less influences from others. And so when we hear about it, okay, we understand, okay, there are problems in this world, and one can take up to the path of bhakti more effectively and in a speedy fashion. So that's what happened to Haryashvas. So Narada Muni caught them at the right point. They had already performed so much of austerities to be the progenitors, because they are the sons of Daksha Prajapati. And so they were ready for it. They were ready to enter into Grihasthashram, and Narada Muni changed the course of their life. So this is really interesting. And Srila Prabhupada opens the purport saying, the philosophers and scientists conduct scholarly research to find the original cause. But Prabhupada is making the point that they don't do it properly. Which is true, that ultimately there is no conclusive understanding of the origin of the universe, or the origin of matter, or where is it coming from. There is no conclusive understanding. Of course, as Prabhupada states here, there are many fantastic theories, and Prabhupada says it shouldn't be the whimsical path or just by fantastic theories. So there is no real scientific research into the absolute truth in the material realm. All the scientific theories are proven wrong. It's just a matter of time. So that is called the theory of pessimistic meta-induction. pessimistic induction. There is a theory in itself. It says that all the theories will be proven wrong. So that in itself is a theory. Probably that is a right theory. Theory of pessimistic meta-induction. It says that it's a pessimistic view. And it's a pessimistic induction. The reason is, so far, all theories have been proven wrong, right? Or at least have been modified. So given that, how can we say that the current theory is the right theory? How can we say that the current theory is the conclusive theory? It may not be, and it will not be as well. Of course, there are arguments against that. However, generally scientists also agree that when new theories come, it is a totally different paradigm, a totally different concept that they bring in. They don't use the original concepts. Generally, it is not an evolution of a given theory. Rather, it is the presentation of new concepts. And that's how the new theories come. The reason is, those who have done some research and those who have come up with some theories, they are so much caught up in those theories that they cannot really think out of the box. Generally, they die and they go, and someone else will come and they start new concepts and they'll give new theories which can explain better. Still, no theory is conclusive in explaining any aspects of matter. So understanding matter is very complicated. That's why this research is going on forever. Yes, that's what Prabhupada is telling, of course. So, no scientific theory can come to any conclusion about matter. There is no conclusion about matter. Nothing can be explained completely. They are all attempts to explain to some degree, but there is no conclusion as such. So that is the situation in this material world. So even Prahlad Maharaj asks this question, interesting verse from the 9th chapter or the 7th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, where he asks, Kutrāshisha Shruti Sukha Mrigadrishni Rupaha. He compares the happiness of this material world to Mrigadrishni Rupaha. Mrigadrishni Rupa means exactly like the mirage in the desert. In the desert, we can see mirage, and it is Mrigatrishni Rupa. It's telling that a deer is thirsty and want to drink water and sees the water-like reflection in the desert. So, that is Mrigatrishni Rupa. So, where is the real happiness? And he further makes a very interesting point that Nirvadyate natu jano apiti vidwan Kamanalam madhulavaihi shamayan durapaihi. So he uses the word kamanalam. Kamanalam means, anala means fire. Kamanalam means the fire of lust. The fire of material sense gratification. And they are desiring for madhulavaihi. Madhulavaihi means just like a drop of honey. So the entire sense gratification, it is just like a drop of honey. They are desiring that, the fire, and they want to be burnt in the fire of sense gratification. And they say that, what is the use of it? So they say, the so-called philosophers, scientists, and politicians know this very well. What do they know? They know that in this material world, every living entity desires some future happiness which is exactly like a mirage in the desert. Where is water in the desert? Or, in other words, where is happiness in this material world? As for this body, what is its value? It is merely a source of various diseases. The so-called philosophers, scientists, and politicians know this very well, but nonetheless, they aspire for temporary happiness. So they can come to the conclusion that there is no real happiness, but still there is a catch. What is the catch? Still they pursue material happiness. And when it comes to finding the origin through material means, no one can find the real source, still they pursue. So happiness is very difficult to obtain, but because they are unable to control their senses, they run after the so-called happiness of material world and never come to the right conclusion. In other words, the senses are uncontrolled, and so it is impossible to come to the real conclusion. So no material research can come to the right conclusion. It can go in the right path, but it can never be conclusive. So this is one point to be taken here. That's why Srila Prabhupada says the research has to be really scientific. It cannot be whimsical or just fantastic theories. The same point is applicable even when it comes to the spiritual circle, because there are so many literature even within the Vedic paradigm, isn't it? There are so many Upanishads, and the conclusion of everything is given here in Vedanta Sutra. So Vyasadeva wrote so many Puranas, he divided the Vedas. The conclusion that they are talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of mantras, few hundred thousands of mantras at least. And these mantras are not conclusive in one sense. These mantras, of course, present conclusive points, but since they are complicated, people cannot understand, and so Vyasadeva wrote the conclusion in Vedanta Sutra first. He wrote Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra, and that's what is quoted here in the beginning of the purport. First sutra is Adhato Brahma Jnasa. Adha means now. Ataha, next Ataha means therefore. Brahma Jnasa. Now you inquire into the absolute. So this is the first sutra. So the meaning is that now that you have obtained a human form, therefore you inquire into the absolute truth. So this is the meaning of the first sutra. And after presenting the first sutra, the second sutra in itself gives the conclusion. That is Janmadhyasya Yataha. That is the conclusion. What is that? Janmadhyasya Yataha. That the Supreme Lord is the cause of Janma Adi. Janma means creation. Adi means etc. So it's a sutra form. It's saying Supreme Lord is the origin of creation, sustenance and dissolution. So this is the second sutra. That's all. It doesn't mention the name of the personality, or doesn't even tell Purusha. Here it is more descriptive because it is mentioned Panchavimshati Tattvanam Purushaha. One who is the Lord of all 25 material elements. However, in the second sutra, it just mentioned Janmadhyasya Yataha. That's all. And Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the explanation and expansion of this. And that's why Śrīmad Bhāgavatam starts with the same point. What is that? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yataha Anyayat Itaradas Chartheshu Abhijna Sarat. In this way, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam starts. So Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the explanation of entire Vedanta Sutra. So it is mentioned Bhashyam Brahma Sutranam. This is the Bhashyam, this is the commentary on the entire Vedanta Sutra by the same author. So that is the authenticity of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam presents the entire philosophy very descriptively, along with so many pastimes, as we can read here. This is the greatness of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. However, Mayavadis and impersonalists used to think that Vaishnavas do not know philosophy. They simply chant and dance. This was the criticism of Mayavadis, including Prakashananda Saraswati in Banaras, when they observed the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So they even criticized Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya was chanting and dancing in ecstasy, and they thought that these people do not know any philosophy, they are simply sentimentalists. And Lord Chaitanya and his followers proved that this is not just sentiments, but we have such depths of philosophies presented elaborately. So Lord Chaitanya himself had his philosophical conversations with Prakashananda Saraswati, and even before that with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right? We know this conversation where Lord Chaitanya explained the truth based on scriptures, based on Upanishads and based on Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. When we see further, we can see the followers of Lord Chaitanya, they explain this in a very sophisticated fashion. And Srila Prabhupada made this very accessible for everyone. So we have such a strong backing of philosophy. So it is not just the practice, but there is such a strong backing of philosophy, and Srila Prabhupada wanted that. And that's why he wrote so many books. Yes, exactly. It is accessible to everyone. Even currently, one ISKCON Swami went to one ashram of Mayavadis, and the leader of those Mayavadis, they told the Swami, that ISKCON Swami, ISKCON Maharaj, that we should never argue on philosophy with ISKCON devotees. So even current Mayavadis, they accept the fact that ISKCON has full philosophy. In other words, Srila Prabhupada has given full philosophy. There is no possibility of arguments. Absolutely, there is no possibility of arguments. So this is something unique to our Parampara in itself. Our Parampara is known for literature, starting from Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is accompanied by whom? Do you know? What is that? Narada, yes, but there are 4 personalities or 4 personifications follow Brahma. No, not Kumaras. Yeah, they are the answer. Yeah? Exactly, you know the answer. Hagriva knows the answer, right? What is the answer? 4 Vedas, the personification of 4 Vedas. When Brahma comes to this world, all the Vedas, they come in person. And even in Brahma's hands, you can see Vedas. He's holding Vedas. And when Brahma comes, there are personifications of Vedas. When you read Bhagavatamrita, you can read this. If you have read all Srila Prabhupada's books, you can read Bhagavatamrita. Of all Goswami literatures, the first one to read is Bhagavatamrita. Because that presents all the tattvas very clearly, Rasa tattva very clearly. So in Bhagavatamrita, in the progressive journey of Gopakumar, he was going through all the material realms progressively, hierarchically, and then ultimately he's entering the spiritual world and ultimately Goloka Vrindavan. So that is his journey. In that, we see that when he reaches the Brahmaloka, he happens to witness these conversations. He happens to hear this conversation of all different Vedic literatures. They are all coming in personal forms. They are coming one after another, and they are presenting different conclusions. For example, some of the Upanishads, as person, they argue upon the impersonal Brahman. And then some other Upanishads like Gopala Tapani Upanishad, they come in person and they say, no, ultimately Gopal, Krishna is the ultimate truth. And then the Purana starts coming, and Puranas, they speaks about the pastimes of the Lord. And then the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam presents the conclusions. Like that, he was able to witness the presentation of different Puranas and Upanishads. So ultimately, as we mentioned earlier, Brahma is always accompanied by Vedas. We just read in the previous canto. When Brahma came to convince Priyavrata, he didn't come alone. What you all said is right. He came along with Narada Muni. He had Kumaras, he had other celestial beings, but he had also personified Vedas. So our Parampara is known for literature, starting from the Sampradaya-Acharya, Brahmaji. That's why in our Parampara, all Acharyas gave so many literatures. All the Goswamis, all the followers of Lord Chaitanya, they gave so much of literature. Rupa Goswami wrote so many books. Sanatan Goswami wrote so many books. Jiva Goswami wrote so many books. Jiva Goswami wrote how many? maybe around 200,000 verses. Around 200,000 verses, at least, if I'm right. So think about that. Just try to fathom the scholarship of Jiva Goswami. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. He gave the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. There are many biographies of Lord Chaitanya, but Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered the foremost. Why? Because it is established based on Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So in other words, the presentation of Tattva is very strong in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There are other biographies, of course we do read other biographies of Lord Chaitanya, but such a philosophical presentation along with the pastimes of the Lord, we can only find in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's why Srila Prabhupada wanted to translate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in the beginning itself. So after almost finishing 4th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because he wanted Chaitanya Charitamrita to be present in this planet. He was very, very careful about that. We know the statement of Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. So he mentioned a very interesting point, because Bengal, there are floods sometimes, right? And now also we can see floods. Mayapur, Ganges comes, all the first floor is underwater. It can come all the way up to the altar. So Bhaktivedanta Maharaj mentioned that assume there is a flood in Mayapur, or if it is a universal devastation, so everyone is going to be flooded. And then, okay, now we can see flood up in northern New South Wales. So there is a flood everywhere. So if there is a flood and you cannot carry all the literatures with you. We have Bhagavatam, so we can see all the literature there. We have 18 volumes of Bhagavatam. We have Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have Bhagavad Gita. We have all the small books. Then, what to do? What can we carry? What can we forgo? So he said, one set of Bhagavatam, one set of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and one Bhagavad Gita. So take everything and go. But if flood increases, then what can we drop? First you can drop Bhagavad Gita. But what to do? It's a choice. We cannot do anything. We are in this world. It's a compromise, the world of compromises. Right? It's a conditioned world. It's not no perfect situation. So you drop Bhagavad Gita. You hold on to Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then, still, you cannot carry any more. You had to drop some more. Then what do you drop? No, you can drop Bhagavatam. So Bhaktivedanta Maharaj says, you can never drop Chaitanya Charitamrita. The reason is, Chaitanya Charitamrita has the essential verses from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. There are 300 verses are there in from Bhagavatam in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In other words, if we want to know Bhagavad Gita, we have to read Bhagavatam. If we want to know properly Bhagavad Gita, we have to read Bhagavatam. And if we want to know Bhagavatam, we have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it is progressive. So in other words, everything is connected. As one time, I remember, Bhujan Prabhu was telling me, one who is advanced can see the highest philosophy in Bhagavad Gita. So it is progressive. It's not that Bhagavad Gita doesn't have anything. Bhagavad Gita has everything, but initially we may not be able to understand. But as we progress in bhakti, by performing service, dedicating our life, our time in Krishna service and studying books, what happens? We understand, we see the higher principles in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has everything. But the descriptive form we can find in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is the contribution of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, as you mentioned. Similarly, Jiva Goswami, he wrote 200,000 verses. So much of literature. Prabhupada himself, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote so many books, 60 or so books, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he also wrote profusely. But what happened? Do you know the past time? There was such a fight among devotees for whatever written by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and also overall the atmosphere wasn't very good. There was a lot of fight in the mud. As Srila Prabhupada, he told to Srila Prabhupada, there will be fight, there will be fire in the mud. So the same thing happened, and they had the original manuscripts of many of his books, and they were crossing a river, and the boat capsized, and they lost many of his writings. So we don't have access to many of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's books. So this is the reality. Actually, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj also wrote many books. We don't have access to many of them. Of course, we have some, like Brahma Samhita we have Vaishnava K. Few books are there, but not many. And there are few commentaries, but not everything. And when it came to Srila Prabhupada made it accessible to the entire world by writing in English and distributing them profusely. So this is the speciality. So here we come to the point that this is the speciality of our Parampara literature, and as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we have literature. So our duty to literature is 1, study, practice, teach, and distribute. So we have 4 services to books of Srila Prabhupada. We had to study, we had to practice, we had to teach, and we had to distribute. Okay, teaching and distributing, similar. But still, these are all our responsibilities in connection to Srila Prabhupada's literature, because that's why Srila Prabhupada came here. One of the main reasons is to give this literature. And everything is based on this literature. And that's why it is very clearly mentioned. All the conclusions are there. Bhagavatam, then Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam jnanam advayam brahmedi paramatmedi bhagavaniti shabdyate. The definition of absolute truth in 3 levels. This is a verse from the 2nd chapter of 1st canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. A verse to be memorized by everyone. Very important verse, the 3 aspects of the absolute truth. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdate. One is the impersonal Brahman, the impersonal effulgence, then Paramatma, the super soul, and ultimately Bhagavan. And Prabhupada mentions interestingly that, look, all in the next verse from the Vishnu Purana, that everything is energy of Krishna, both matter and spirit. Ekadesha sthita agner. Just even though Agni, the fire is Ekadesha sthita, it is situated in one place, but Jyotsna means the light. Jyotsna, even the moonlight is called Jyotsna. Jyotsna, what happened? Vistarani yatha. Vistarani means spreads. The Jyotsna, the light spreads everywhere. Similarly, the Lord's energy is spreading everywhere. And here also there is a conclusive statement. What is the conclusive statement? There are only 2 kinds of energies when it comes to the material world, both matter and spirit. That's it. Everything is covered. Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, Krishna makes the same point. The conclusion is given. And Srila Prabhupada makes such conclusive statements. If you watch this video of Srila Prabhupada speaking to many professors from the universities, you might have watched it, a very famous video. They are all sitting in a garden, and Prabhupada is asking, whatever you are all philosophers, you are all theologians, you are this, you know this, you are doing so much of research, but we are giving you the conclusion of all. You just take it. Prabhupada just like an innocent child, We have everything, you just take it. We are giving you the conclusion, you just take it. So this is the point. Actually, Prabhupada is presenting the same thing. We are giving the conclusion, but you just accept it, that's all. He spoke the same thing to Vedic scholars in Mayapur. One time, many Vedic scholars approached Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked them a question. So you are all Vedic scholars, so what is the conclusion of all the Vedic literatures? They said, that we cannot say. That is the conclusion of the way, we cannot say, we don't know. And then Prabhupada called upon a Gurukul boy, young boy, asked, so what is the absolute truth? So he said, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he said, see, even a child in ISKCON knows what is the conclusion. Yes, even Saraswati, she used to preach like that. Prabhupada appreciated. She used to ask, do you know who is Krishna? Just a young girl. Do you know who is Krishna? So, to the, a Western person who doesn't know anything, who is Krishna, is bewildered, who is Krishna? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the conclusion. It's actually giving the conclusion. And Prabhupada said, look, even she is preaching. Just a young girl, even she is preaching. The same point is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Speaking about Chaitanya Charitamrita. Balopi kurute shastram Sri Chaitanya prasaditaha. It's mentioned, even a balopi, even a young child can know the ultimate truth by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We can see that actually. Even a young child can understand the ultimate truth by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So, we are grateful to Prabhupada, we are grateful to Lord Chaitanya and the entire Parampara. Because everything is presented without any difficulties to understand. So this verse quoted in this purport is the definition of the absolute truth. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam. You know that verse, right? You can memorize. Very easy verse. It's not very difficult to memorize. This is the conclusion of everything. It's the absolute truth, the definition of the absolute truth. And we can know that Bhagavan, as it is mentioned, Bhagavan by bhakti. Bhakti amam abhijanati. By bhakti one can understand Krishna. Bhagavan, that is the absolute truth. Jiva Goswami explains what is the meaning of Bhagavan. What is the meaning of Bhagavan? Okay, that is one definition. But what is Jiva Goswami's definition of Bhagavan? Anyone knows? I'm sure it is mentioned in Ishopanishad as well, right? Bha, referring to Bharta. Bharta. The Lord is the Bharta. Bharta means the maintainer. He is the nourisher. So Krishna is the Bharta. So he's called the Bharta. So that is the meaning of, in Bhagavan, that is the meaning of Bha. He maintains the devotees. He has his personal hand in the lives of devotees. Isn't it? We can all experience that. If we practice Krishna consciousness, we can experience. The Lord is actually guiding us through. Krishna is helping us. Krishna's personal hand is there. It is not just for the advanced devotees. We can be neophytes. But Krishna's personal hand is there if we are using the simple things. If we are chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regulatory principles, if we are dedicated to this mission, Krishna is personally protecting individual devotees, each and every devotee. So he is acting as Bharta. He is the maintainer and he is the nourisher. He is nourishing the devotees. That's why he is Bharta. Is he nourishing? He helps us to grow in Krishna consciousness. He gives us taste in Krishna consciousness. This entire canto is dealing with which subject? Poshanam. That is the quality of the Lord. So actually Bharta means one who is giving poshanam, one who is protecting and one who is maintaining and nourishing the devotees. So this is actually about protection and maintenance of the devotees. So the Lord does that. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, again it is mentioned that we hear the name of Lord Chaitanya. What is the name of Lord Chaitanya when he was born? What is the name given by Nilambar Chakravarti? Nimai, that is one name, but that's not the astrological name that was given to Lord. Vishwambhara, right? Vishwambhara. You know the meaning of Vishwambhara? Exactly, one who maintains the universe. So we think we just maintain the universe means giving the material facilities. Yes, that is an aspect of it. But how he maintains? That is the topic of discussion in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He ultimately maintains by giving prema bhakti. That's how he maintains. So he wants to give bhakti, ultimately prema bhakti. Of course, we are getting it in the seed form. So he is giving that to everyone. That's how he maintains the universe. So can you see when you say Bharta, it has a very deep meaning. And that is the function of Hladini Shakti as well. You know Hladini Shakti, right? Hladini Shakti, who is the personification of Hladini Shakti? Srimati Radharani. So Radharani has two functions. Many functions, but two functions mainly. One is allows Krishna to taste the sweet pastimes. So that is one function. And the second one is maintaining the devotees, protection of the devotees, and nourishing the devotees. So the Lord does that through Hladini Shakti, through Srimati Radharani. And of course, Lord Chaitanya is both Radha and Krishna. Can you see the connection? So it's a, so it's a very important point to understand. Bha. Yeah, that's true. Bha is referring to Bharta. How about Va? Va. Va is Bhaga. No, next is Ga, right? Yeah. Bhaga. Ga is referring to another quality of the Lord as the leader of the devotees. Leader of the devotees. So it's not just leader. Gamayayita. Gamayayita means the leader. He's not just the leader. Okay. This is acting something else. Gamayayita means he's the leader of the devotees. And also, he is the creator of good qualities in devotees. Can you see? He is the leader and he is the creator of good qualities in devotees. So the Lord is known as Gunatma. He possesses all good qualities. He is the reservoir of all good qualities. And he comes and he enacts pastimes to show his good qualities in his pastimes. Simultaneously, he does inspire devotees to develop good qualities. So this is Ga. It's amazing. If you think about it, he maintains and he nourishes devotees. All his pastimes are actually explanation of this term Bha, because he nourishes the devotees through his sweet pastimes. If you see all pastime, what is the purpose of pastime? In pastime, Krishna is enjoying and he's giving enjoyment to all the devotees. If you pick any pastime, any action of Krishna. When Krishna was born, Vasudeva was carrying Krishna from Mathura to Vrindavan. On the way, he had to cross river Yamuna. And suddenly, Krishna was dropped from his hands and fell into the waves of river Yamuna. Immediately, Vasudeva was in great anxiety. Why Krishna did that? He achieved two things by this. One, he gave mercy to Yamuna, because Yamuna wanted to touch the Supreme Lord. She is waiting for a long time to get the touch of Krishna. And of course, Krishna has his water pastimes later. And on the other side, Krishna wanted to increase the rasa of Vasudeva. So any action, even any action, if you see in Krishna's pastimes, everything is to increase the rasa of his devotees. As the cowherd boys were walking into the mouth of Aghasur, Krishna was thinking, what is these Gopas are doing? What these guys are doing? He was surprised. It is mentioned he was surprised to see how his own Yogamaya works. He was surprised. And what the Gopas were thinking, it's okay. They could smell the meat. They could feel the heat in the mouth of Aghasur. Still they clapped hands. They started dancing. They started chanting. They went into the mouth of Aghasur. What they thought, even if there is danger, Krishna is going to protect us. So he is Bharta. So this is cowherd boys. They have full faith in Krishna. When there was forest fire in Vrindavan, they were encircled by forest fire. What did Krishna ask them to do? Close their eyes. Are we ready to close our eyes? No, but Krishna asked them, close your eyes. And indeed, they closed their eyes, and when they opened their eyes, they were probably in Bhandiravan. So they were taken from one forest to the other forest. And there was no more forest fire. So this is Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna maintains, so he is Bha in Bhagavan. is Ga. He is the leader of the devotees, and also he inspires to develop good qualities in devotees. So Srila Sanatana Goswami explains about the qualities of the Lord. It is very interesting. Srila Sanatana Goswami further explains that the Lord manifests a specific spiritual quality for the benefit of each living entity. So Krishna wants to attract these unlimited living entities, and the Lord has unlimited qualities. So we get attracted specifically to one quality of the Lord. This is mentioned in one of the purports in Ishovanishes as well, our specific service to the Supreme Lord. So the Lord has unlimited qualities, and each quality is directed to an individual soul. And so the Lord has infinite qualities, and so he is known as Gunatma. And all the pastimes are to demonstrate his wonderful qualities and to inspire us to develop such qualities. So Bhagavan, Va referring to Vasa. Vasa means one who resides everywhere. Like Vasudeva. Vasudeva means one who resides everywhere, in everyone's heart, in the atom, in between the atom. So that is Bhagavan. And Van is referring to Vat. Vat means one who possesses. And there the word come Van. So that's how Bhagavan means one who possesses these three qualities. Bha, Ga, and Va. One who is the Lord maintainer of the devotees. One who is the leader and inspirer of good qualities in devotees. And he is present everywhere as a super soul. So this is the quality of Krishna, and the Lord is helping us to remember him. He is helping us to do service for him and ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada mentions in this purport, see this, whatever we experience, including matter and spirit soul, the living force is but a combination of two energies of the Lord, Vishnu. So that is his existence everywhere. Then the inferior energy and the superior energy. One should seriously study the facts concerning creation, maintenance, and devastation. They are presented in Bhagavatam. We have to carefully study all this. That's why we are having Bhagavatam class. As well as the permanent place from which one never need to return. Yad gatvada nivartante. So we need to know about the spiritual world, and that's why we had to read Krishna book, we had to study 10 cantos. Because that is the place from where we never return. Human society should study this, but instead of culturing such knowledge, people are attracted to temporary happiness and sense gratification, culminating in bottomless, topless passion. So we can see this. When we don't have Krishna consciousness, we are left with passion. And then Prabhupada concludes saying, there is no profit in such activities. One must engage himself in the Krishna consciousness movement. This is the conclusion. So from here we can see the Lord as Bhagavan is inspiring us to perform devotional service. And that is the instruction given here by Prabhupada. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. We can know Krishna only through devotional service. So here Narada Muni speaks to Haryashvas that the Supreme Lord is a reservoir of 25 elements. So he is the reservoir of everything, including 25 elements, because the previous analogy is about the house of 25 elements. And as the Supreme Being and conductor of all cause and effect, all the action, reaction, everything is under the direction of the Supreme Lord. And he causes their manifestation. He is the source. If one engages in temporary fruitive activities, not knowing the Supreme Person, what benefit will he derive? So we can very clearly see that. One can never be happy by such material activities. So I conclude here and see if there are any questions or comments. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which book? that there are, the commentaries are already there of different acharyas. I don't know about that because all the commentaries has already been there, you know. I don't know, they put it together. Generally, it's all there as separate books. Say, for example, Saratha Darshini, Vishwanath Thakur commentary on Bhagavatam. It is there as a separate book. And Jiva Goswami's Krama Sandarbha, it's as a separate book. Similarly, Sandarbhas, they are as separate books. And Sridhar Swami's commentary, Bhavartha Deepika, that's a separate book. So these books are certainly available. I don't know whether he put it together or not. Then, starting with, which are they? Mind, body, Mano, Buddhira, Hankara, 3, right? Then, Prathan Mahatattva, isn't it? Mahatattva and Prathan. So it depends on how we count. One can count in different ways. So sometimes it's 24, right? You might have had 24 elements. Sometimes it is mentioned 25. So it depends on how we count. And sometimes it's mentioned 16. So for example, the shloka that I sang in the beginning in the invocation, Shodashatmakam. So it's only 16 elements are mentioned. Bhuder Mahadhir Ya Ima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Etesha Ya Purusha Bhungte Gunan Shoda Kash Atmakam. So Shodasha Gunas are mentioned. Shodasha means 16. So it depends on how we count. So Krishna in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam clarifies this point. He mentions to Uddhava that different philosophers count material elements in different ways according to their perspective. Even though it is counted in different ways, they are all talking about the same thing. So there's nothing wrong in it, he mentioned this point in the 11th canto. Yeah. Okay. Any other final question? Yes, Prabhu. What is that? Flowing in both directions. And I don't think I can now. I don't know. Probably I'll have to take a look, yeah. Maybe later I will. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.